going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of The Curious Cat. I thought I'd speak a little bit today on social media and all this programming that's going on via the social media platforms. It's kind of the new TV. So I just wanted to speak a little bit about that and give you some of my thoughts on that. And please, guys, if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, hit like on this video and share with friends and family that might find this interesting. It helps the channel grow and it helps me get some of this information out there. So I'd really appreciate that if you guys can do that. And with that being said, let's get right into it. So social media, what I've noticed is every time I sign in and I start scrolling through Facebook or looking through Instagram, I get this feeling of lack in my life. So I see all these people doing these amazing things. I see them on their trips. I see them with all their friends and family. I see them boasting about their businesses and how well they're doing. And what you have to realize is that people always try and make their lives look a lot better than they are. So they're always sharing the best moments. They're sharing that trip they took. They're sharing their good looking partner or their selfies of themselves looking beautiful in all these places. And when we see all that kind of stuff, it's hard for us to feel fulfilled in our own lives. So when you look at that and you think about that, every time you're signing in and you're seeing all these people thriving and doing well and sharing all this stuff, and then you look at your own life and you think, why don't I have any of that? Well, it really makes you feel a lack in your own life. And that's just part of it. So I'm sure you guys have all felt that. And just start paying attention when you sign into these platforms and you start scrolling through. Just pay attention how it makes you feel, how you feel before you sign in, how you feel afterwards, how you feel during, and just start taking note of that. Because me personally, I started paying a lot of attention about how it made me feel. And every time I sign in to these platforms and start scrolling, I never come out feeling better than I did when I went in. I just really don't get anything from it. I do get a little bit from Twitter because there is a lot more intelligent conversation going on there. I find with Facebook and Instagram, it's a very narrow conversation. It's very one-sided, and they do a really great job at filtering out anything that doesn't fit the narrative that they want to get out there. So there is some social media platforms that I don't mind. However, even Twitter, they do censor a lot of the information, and yeah, it's just they really control what gets out there, what gets seen, what goes viral, all that. So that's one side of it. And the other thing is that you've probably noticed is there's a lot of stuff on there that just I don't want getting into my mind. There's a lot of violence. It's like I scroll through Twitter and I'll see this guy getting gang beat or police beating people up, police brutality. Our minds are like gardens, and they're a very delicate thing. I personally don't want that kind of stuff getting into my psyche. I don't want to be constantly bombarded with violence and just crisis and always bad news and all this oppression and how bad we have it. If that's all you're seeing, that's programming your mind. And that's what you'll start to believe this world is about. So personally, what I started doing is just shutting it off. I'm kind of a unique situation, so I'll just give you a quick idea of how I kind of got lucky in a sense. When I was, I think I was about 10 years old, and me and my brother would watch a lot of TV, and we'd watch movies and all that. And my stepdad said, "Oh yeah, there's no way you can go without watching TV. You guys watch so much TV." He said, "I'll bet you $100." Or he said, "If you can go a year without TV, I'll give you $100." And back then, $100 was it still was quite a bit of money. I know now it doesn't have much value, but that was quite a few years ago now, 30 years ago. And $100 was a lot of money. And I've always been really attracted to money. And so I thought, what the heck, a year? That's not that bad. So I tried it. I went a year without TV. And to be honest, I just never got back into watching TV. So around 10 years old, I just stopped watching TV. I've never had cable television. I still do watch movies. I really like the artistic aspect of movies and all that. I've really been into photography and cinematography and all that. So I do watch movies. However, I stopped watching TV. So I avoided a lot of the programming. And when all these social media platforms started taking off, I recognized that it was very similar to television. It was a lot of programming, and I could just tell by, how they control the narrative. I mean, I follow a lot of different people that are speaking a lot of truth, and what I noticed is they don't really let that kind of info get out on these platforms, and then other information they let go viral. So it was pretty evident to me that they were using this as just another form of brainwashing and controlling the narrative, and really just deciding what they want the narrative to be, what information they want getting out, and what they want to start programming our minds with. So I've always been really aware of that, just because of my unique situation where I stopped watching television at such a young age. And I've really been sensitive to these social media platforms and aware of how it makes me feel when I sign in. So with that being said, I want you guys, if you can, to just play around with it. Start really paying attention to how it makes you feel when you sign into these social media platforms, and when you start seeing all these these posts that people are sharing. How does it make you feel? Does it make you feel better? Does it make you feel like your life is more complete, that you're doing a better job? All that. Does it lift you up? Does it serve you? Or is it making you feel a bit of lack and all that? Because if it's the later, then I would really recommend trying to limit your exposure. I mean, yeah, we live in the information age, and it's really important that we're all paying attention and that we're digesting this information. But there's a very fine balance between how much information is really going to serve us. I mean, even when I avoid all media altogether, I still find that I pick up the most important stuff just through going out on the town and talking to people. It's pretty hard to escape it. You're gonna hear kind of the mainstream narrative no matter what, and anything that's really important or that is really at the forefront, it's gonna come into your awareness anyways, without even exposing yourself to the media. So, I think there is this fine balance of, yeah, maybe you only need 5 or 10 minutes on these social media platforms to just per day to just kind of get a feel for what's going on in the world. Or maybe it's just 5 or 10 minutes of checking out the news, seeing what's going on in the world today, and just getting a slight feel. But a lot of people are diving right into this, and they're getting sucked into it, and they spend all day digesting so much content, so much information, that they're being bombarded, and it's really not healthy for the psyche to get exposed to that much information. If you think back in the day before we had these media platforms and the internet, if you lived in a small community, you were really only being bombarded with, or I shouldn't even say bombarded, you were only being exposed to maybe the local newspaper, the local gossip. Back then they didn't even have TV at a certain point. They didn't have radio. So before all that, you were really limited to what you were exposed to. And that, in my opinion, was a good thing. It's like you're only dealing with really what's truly important in your local area. But now with this global village, or this, the internet and the way we share information, you're being bombarded with information that is from across the globe. So for instance, I'm here in Canada, and I'm getting exposed to all these riots and looting and all this stuff that's going on down in the US. Sure, it's important to some extent, but honestly, if I just turn off my social media, I don't see any of it in my day-to-day life. My life is very beautiful. It's very peaceful. I don't have any issues in my day-to-day life. But if I'm turning on these media platforms and I'm seeing this stuff, my psyche starts to believe that's my reality. And I start to get programmed that reality is violent, we're in crisis, there's all this lack, and there's all this divide and hate and all this stuff. And I personally don't think that's healthy. When I turn that stuff off and I just walk around in nature and I listen to the birds and I enjoy whatever people I encounter in my day-to-day life, I personally don't see any violence. I don't see any crisis. I just see beauty, and I really appreciate the moment. So it's hard for us now when we have the internet and a global, we're exposed to global events. There's always going to be something happening that's negative and violent and bad. And that's what the news and the media are always pushing. So of course it makes sense that if you're exposing yourself to this on a day-to-day basis, that you actually subconsciously are getting programmed to believe that that's reality. You're starting to believe that all of reality is constantly in crisis, that the world is violent, and that people can't be trusted. And you wonder why there's so much divide right now and why there's so much anger and people are so much on edge. Because look at what they're digesting. Look at the content they're choosing to consume. Just turn off your computer. The computer is the new television. Turn it off for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month. Go out in nature and just be out in the forest, be around a body of water, go to some hot springs, go by a still lake and listen to the birds, get away from all of the Wi-Fi signals, the GPS, the 4G, the 5G, the blue light that they're programming us with through our computer screens and all that. Turn all that off, all these negative waves and vibrations, and just get out in nature, look around, listen to the birds, breathe in the fresh air, get out of the cities, and see how much different you feel. And I can promise you it's going to be a very noticeable difference, and you'll see that the world is actually quite beautiful and peaceful and abundant, and that it's this programming that we're digesting, all this content we're constantly digesting, and this stuff that we're getting exposed to on a world scale. It's like, of course there's always negative stuff that's happening in the world, but what's actually happening in your direct community? Is it actually that negative? Have you been out and just talked to your neighbor? It's actually not that bad. And so it's this narrative that they're pushing, this scarcity mindset, this, everything's in crisis, the world's ending, global warming's destroying everything, all this guilt they're trying to push on you. Oh, you're white? Well, white privilege, white guilt. Oh, you drive a vehicle? Oh, you're destroying the earth through global warming. You just can't win. You just can't win. You're always going to be programmed that you're guilty. You should feel guilty just for being alive, for waking up in the day. I think we should just turn all this junk off. Really got to be selective with what we consume and how much we're consuming, and what we're like. I like to set an intent. Why am I going on there? What am I using these social media platforms for? So personally, I'm choosing to use them to try and get out information that I hope can better people's lives personally. And I just don't like consuming it. I don't like scrolling through Facebook. It never makes me feel good. Same as Instagram. Instagram's a little better. I suppose you can follow some kind of more artistic stuff, and I like to follow like architecture and stuff like that, and some outdoor photography stuff, and that actually makes me feel better. But a lot of it, if you're not careful, especially men, they just bombard you with highly sexualized content and all that, and it's really programming you and making you feel a lack, and a lot of it is designed to cause you to lust after what you don't have. And every time you're lusting, it's creating discontentment in your own life and you're not happy with what you already have. So I'm saying that we turn it off as much as we can, and we really turn to expressing gratitude for what we do have in our life. We look around and focus on the abundance. We all have our challenges and we all have things in our life that create hardship, but we also all have beauty in our life, and it's up to us what we choose to focus on. And like I said, the mind is like a garden. I choose to pull out the weeds, the negative stuff that's getting into my psyche, to, you know, pull them up, deroot them as soon as possible. And I choose to water the thoughts and the ideas that are beneficial and that are making me feel better and are creating value in my life. So be very careful with your mind. It's a very delicate thing. And that, I'm just going to leave it at that. So I hope you guys kind of picked up what I'm trying to lay down here and express. And yeah, let me know in the comments what you think. I appreciate it when people comment on the videos. I like to open up a bit of a dialogue. And I hope you guys are all doing well, prospering, and creating abundance in your own lives in these trying times. With that being said, have a fantastic day. I love you guys. God bless, and we'll see you in the next video.